Hi. In today's breakdown, I'm going to be taking you through crow and handstand and some of the fundamentals that you can use to get you into those poses or get you towards those poses. So to start off with, the most important thing is the contact that we have with the floor. So that's going to come down to our hands. So when you bring your hands to the floor, you want them about shoulder distance apart. You want to be thinking, spreading the fingers as wide as they'll go, pressing the fingertips down into the ground, pressing the fingertips down into the ground and pulling the fingertips back towards the palm of the hand so you feel the second knuckle begin to pop up, and really pressing down through the root of that index finger. When you do this, when you practice this, spreading the fingers wide and digging the fingers down into the floor, you should feel the muscles of the hands and the fingers begin to engage. And this is one of the things that we can do just to cultivate some strength and power into our hands and into our fingers. What we're also looking for is feeling more sensation into the fingertips than into the heel of the hand. So when your hands come to the floor, you want to be feeling the weight into the fingertips as you grip. Next up, what we're looking for is this press down into the arms so that the arms move towards straight, forearms hugging towards each other. So if I was to bring my hips over my knees, hands over shoulders, hands under shoulders, press down into your hands, grip the mat. Now press into the floor and hug the forearms towards each other. One of the things that I like to think about, or I find helpful to think about, is that I'm pressing down into my left hand and screwing my left hand to the left like I'm opening a jam jar, and the same with the right, pressing down into the right hand and screwing the right hand to the right. So what this does, this kind of like screwing sensation, is that it pulls the shoulder, it pulls the engagement up the arms and takes it into the rotator cuff muscle. So you're engaging up into the upper back. You're recruiting all the muscles of the back here. Okay, from there, what we're looking to create is a protraction through the shoulders. So all the same cues, hands to the floor, grip, screw your hands into the ground, press, and then shoulder protraction. So lift your upper back up towards the sky. What tends to happen as we get tired is that we sort of collapse in. So really training that lift of the upper back up towards the sky. And this can be even a few reps if you want to, lift and lowering. What this creates when you press into the hands and lift up through the upper back is almost this like shelf of power. This press through one hand, this lift up and across the chest and back down through the other, and then the other way. And this is really useful whether you're trying to do crow, whether you're trying to do down dog, or whether you're trying to do handstand in all your postures. Just using these few cues can really elevate your practice. Okay, next up, you want to shift the weight forward so the weight is coming over the fingertips. Remember that there's more sensation, there's more feedback in your fingertips, so more stability than in the heel of the hand. This can be done in the 3/4 plank position. It can be done in a high plank position. Crow and handstand vary in the position of the arms, but also in crow, we're bending our arms a little bit, whereas in handstand, we're looking for this straight line. As the elbows bend, a common tendency is for the elbows to begin to wing out towards the side. So what we want to find is this hug of the forearms towards each other. So as you bend, rather than letting the elbows go out and losing power, hugging the forearms towards each other and bending and pressing back up. So thinking, skimming the rib cage skimming the elbows by the rib cage. Okay, so that's hands and arms and upper back. Let's find crow on our back. So come all the way down onto your back, bring your knees in towards your chest, press the inside edges of the toe mounds together, Take your knees a little wider and use your hands to hug the knees in towards the rib cage. So you want to be squeezing your hip flexors here. What you'll notice is as the knees come in, your heels tend to lift up. So use your hamstrings to squeeze your heels in towards your bottom. We're using our pelvis and our glutes to lift up here. So curl your tailbone towards the back of the knees to lift your hips away from the floor. This is your leg position for crow. Next up is the arms. So they reach up, tuck your chin. Imagine that the ceiling above you is the floor. You're pressing into it. Knees tap tricep, weight shift forward, press, 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 and hold. So what that looks like when we're coming into a crow. Inside edges of toes together. Knees a little wide, sit back onto your heels. Bring the knees onto the back of the triceps. Lift your hips and bring your hands forward. So what I'm looking to create is this triangle. So toes are the point, hands are the base. And then I begin to shift my weight forward, so my elbows stack over my wrist, gaze forward, and then press back. So that's option one. You just keep your feet on the floor. And what you start to play with is feeling comfortable with the knees in the back of the triceps, shifting the weight forward, and then rocking back. What we're playing with there is actually just practicing getting our weight into the fingertips and using the fingertips just to shift us back the way. So rock forward and rock back. Feet don't have to lift. The next option is as you come forward, you squeeze one heel in towards your bottom, use the strength of the hamstrings, and then release. And then you can try the other, and then release. Every time that you do a posture, just pick one thing to work on, whether that's hug of the forearms towards each other, weight more into fingertips, or curl of the tailbone towards the back of the knees to float your feet away from the floor. I'll show you that one next. Shift the weight forward. Rather than trying to float the feet up, curl the tailbone under and the feet naturally begin to lift. Then use the squeeze of the heels towards the bottom to hold. And then release. So the pelvis is doing something quite similar in handstand, but the legs are doing something very different. So come down to the floor. A really great cue to finding handstand is finding a hollow body handstand on the ground. And you can do as many reps as this as you like. So knees into chest, legs up overhead, inside edges of toe mounds connected, heels squeezing in. Hands reach up overhead. Thumbs on the floor. Now, shoulders to ears, so you're getting rid of your neck and you're recruiting the upper back. Lift your head away from the floor. Press your lower back down into the ground. So there's no space between your lower back and the floor. And then lower your feet to a place that you can hold and stretch as long as you can, drawing your lower ribs down. Hold for 3, 2, 1. Knees into chest and release. So what we're looking for in this posture is really finding this length and this integration through the core, the pull of the lower ribs towards the pubic bone towards the lower ribs. When we're kicking up to a handstand, another thing that's really important is thinking about using the legs and the hips as one unit. So if my left leg was reaching up to the sky and my right leg was reaching away, as they move, so as I curl my tailbone to the floor, the legs move at the same time and they don't get any closer together. So curl and release. Press the lower back into the floor and release. You can do this in an L shape, curl and release. Another option is squeezing the knee in towards the rib cage, stretching the other foot away, finding the tuck of the tailbone under, just to lift your hips a little bit away from the ground. Curl and release. In a handstand, hands would be up, overhead. So there's loads of variations with the legs as you're moving into this. When we're ready to take flight, when we're ready to take flight, there's so much going on. So again, just pick one thing to work on each time. So feet together, hands to the floor, and have them a little forward, like in your crow. Find that kind of triangle position. And in handstand, you really want to shift the weight forward and press the upper back up towards the sky and feel the weight into your fingertips here. So we're going to do just a little kick, finding the handstand hops and feeling the legs work as one unit. So weight shifts forward, lift high, kick. And just keep finding the bounce, keep feeling the shift of the weight forward and release. Shift of the weight forward and release, she says. So handstand's one of those things that definitely for me comes and goes, and it can be really infuriating, but also there's so much to learn from it. So just seeing where you're at in the moment when you're practicing and what works for your body at this point. Oh, hang on, pause. Sorry, I just completely had a mental blank. Do I still have time? Yeah. Okay. Okay. I'll clap and then go again. Okay. Okay, so you are welcome to practice handstand hops again. Another tool that we can use to get us up into handstand and start to feel our hips coming over our shoulders a little bit and build up that strength, build up that courage, is using the wall. So come to a standing position, find a wall where there's a bit of space around you, and the distance that you want to be away from the wall is roughly the leg's length away. So you find that and you bring your hands to the floor. And then you're going to bring one foot to the wall in line with your bottom. You're going to press down into your hands, press into your foot, so you're using them against each other to pick up the other foot and bring the foot onto the wall here, toes together. Then with bent legs, press your butt back towards your heels, and then really strongly extend through the legs to draw your hips over your shoulders. And then release down. So when we come into this position, what it starts to do is really shift the weight away from the wall, and we have to use the fingertips to press back, and we really have to press because you'll start to feel your elbows bend out a little bit towards the side. So it's great for cultivating that strength. From there, you can start to lift one leg up and start to begin to see if you can pull one foot away from the wall a little bit, still using the wall as security. If a wall's not available, using a chair or a bench, make sure it's sturdy, can be another useful option. So I'll show you what that looks like. Press, lift up, weight shifts forward, maybe floating the toe away from the wall. And then when you're ready to come down, you can. Doing the other side, just as a little practice in your own time. So there are a few tools and tips to start finding a little bit of flow, a little bit of balancing time on the hands. Thank you so much for practicing with me